It's time for the Warm-Ups Weekly NFL Injury Report with American Orthopedic and Sports Medicine's Dr. Steven Stoller. Visit them online at drstoller.com.
All right, and with that, we welcome in the good doctor, and of course, Dr. Steven Stoller. And Doc, we got some good injuries. I'll tell you, the quarterbacks. I mean, if you're a fantasy football player and you drafted some of these guys, you're in trouble. But we've got some good injuries to break down this week. How you been?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you very much for having me, Rich.
Always a pleasure. All right, let's start with the Patriots and Jimmy Garoppolo. Reportedly suffered a sprained AC joint in his right shoulder. A lot of people believed it could have been a pain tolerance issue. I know the Patriots were really trying to move him along, push him to get back tonight. It doesn't look like he's going to play. As of today, listed as doubtful on the injury report. Yeah, they'll get Tom Brady back in a couple weeks, but I'm just wondering, grade 2 AC joint injury, is that more of just your shoulder coming almost coming loose out of the socket a little bit, or is this something where he definitely needs some rest?
Well, my impression was that it was a grade 1. I don't know what I didn't see any MRI results. A grade 2 probably needs more rest. There is some injury to the ligaments. A grade 1 is a mild sprain, and I know that Bill Belichick is probably the only one that can get away with telling his quarterback that Tom Brady played with this injury all the time. But it is a pain limiting factor.
So, again, it's probably one of those precautionary things where, look, I mean, Brady's coming back, but typically with these injuries, you're right. I mean, pain tolerance, it's always an issue, and that's kind of a tricky spot for a quarterback. What we do know, I want to get to two more quarterbacks. Well, let me get to one more quarterback, and then I want to get to Adrian Peterson, Jay Cutler. Now, yes. Again, a lot of people were killing him the other night. He had the injury. It looked like it was off a fumble. He got injured. He just didn't have any zip on the ball afterwards. We saw that pick in that game against the Eagles. They have, quote, said it was a thumb ligament injury, and he's going to be out an expected period of time. Now, I'm wondering, is this can you equate this type of injury to, say, like elbow ligament for a pitcher, so to speak, like the Tommy John of football? Okay.
Exactly. And in addition, if it's completely ruptured, I think like his teammate who had surgery to repair the ligament, when this ligament ruptures, a tendon moves into its place to prevent the ligament from healing conservatively. So it's almost an automatic surgical procedure. I'm sort of perplexed with his injury, being that it's a ligament. I saw him throw the ball. I saw him hold the ball. It seemed to me there was more pain than instability with this ligament. And I know he's had injury to his thumb in the past, so I don't know if it's, just inflammation of the joint or whether he has a mild sprain.
Now, is that an injury, though? Is this something where they do have to really be cautious with? Because now you're talking it's on his throwing hand. He's a quarterback. That's just the nature of the position there, and he's got to be able to grip that football. I mean, is this a typical lingering injury?
Yeah, if the ligament could be stretched out, and if it ends up being stretched out, it needs a reconstruction rather than a repair, and that would be done obviously in the off-season, or if he can't throw, it'd be done now, and that's a bigger deal than doing a primary or immediate repair.
All right, again, a couple minutes with American Orthopedic and Sports Medicine, Dr. Steven Stoller. Visit them online, drstoller.com. They got patient education, Q&A, testimonials. They got all the information that you need when it comes to dealing with some injuries as well, trying to get that, we like to call it the weekend warrior, back out there as quickly as possible. All right, before we get to Carson Wentz, let's move on to Adrian Peterson. So he suffered a torn meniscus in his knee during the third quarter against the Packers last week. Obviously, forget about playing status. He had surgery today for a lateral meniscus tear in his right knee. Now, the Vikings said there was no initial issue with that. So, by all accounts, they deem it a successful surgery. They disputed reports that he also tore his LCL. Exactly. So, let me ask you this first of all.
Yes.
This type of injury, he's suffered an injury before on his other leg. This is his right leg. Do you think it's just a fluky thing? Could have been overcompensating, even though he was able to come back from that original injury? And how long is he going to be out?
Well, no, I don't think there's any relationship. I think it's the nature of his position. When you're cutting and your cleats, grab the turf and you twist your knee, that's when you're likely to sustain a meniscal injury, and they're not that uncommon. His injury was what we call a bucket handle tear, and if you think of a bucket with the handle, that's the meniscus that's torn away from where the bucket would be. So in his case, he had it repaired rather than removed. So the rehab is not an issue. It has a poor blood supply, so therefore he's going to be out for probably 4 to 6 months. Not because he won't get the strength or motion back in his knee, but he will re-tear it if he returns too soon.
Does the full repair lessen the risk of, saying, re-injury or maybe arthritis going forward? Because he is an aging running back that is probably the most. There's so many blows that you sustain as a running back. So I'm just wondering, is there a risk to having a re-injury?
I think the success rate is probably about 75%, and so for him going back, I mean, he certainly could re-tear it. But I think the wisest thing to do is what he's doing is trying to get it to heal. And if it does heal, it's like he didn't have an injury.
Are these injuries, they seem they're always, when you talk about the MCLs, the ACL, it always seems as though it's common with running backs. I mean, have you found these types of injuries are common with running backs?
Yes. Because when they plant their leg and they put so much pressure and they twist, that's when you usually get and also they're getting hit with with their leg planted, and that's when you can easily get an ACL tear. But in his case, an ACL tear, that's a recovery time, and in this case with a meniscus, it's really a healing time. So it really has to get the blood supply to make sure that it is fully healed. And the meniscus doesn't have a very good blood supply, especially as you get older.
And again, a couple minutes with Dr. Steven Stoller. And again, visit them online, drstoller.com. And, of course, American Orthopedic and Sports Medicine in Englewood, New Jersey. Great services, exams, treatment plans, arthroscopic surgery on joints, anti-aging medicine. So Dr. Steven does a great job handling athletes and the weekend warriors, so to speak. Last one for you. And we talked about this. And I want you to give a little insight to the Eagles fans out there. So Carson Wentz, he already had those bruised, the ribs, the fractured rib, or rib, I should say. That
yes.
It did seem as though he's 100%. We've seen him take a ton of hits the first 2 games of his career. We always talk about the style play, or just it happens, the hits happen. Some of the plays he certainly could have went down. He could have gave up himself. He could have went out of bounds. I'm wondering, when you have a quarterback with that style of play who sustained that type of injury, if he keeps getting hit like that, can that have a cumulative effect?
Yes. I mean, it can. But then, again, you look at someone like Ben Roethlisberger, and, he takes tremendous hits. I mean, I know he's a big guy, and he does get injured. But at his age, he's still playing like, anyone else. I figured that his career would have initially been shortened because of all his hits. So I think it's up to the individual and just what kind of injuries that he does have.
And in closing, you bring up a good point, a good comparison, because they're pretty much the same size. I mean, if you look at some of the injuries that Big Ben has sustained throughout the course of his career, but he's a big guy. Carson Wentz is a big kid too, so it does help when you're 6'4", 6'5", right?
But on the other hand, you think of your ex-quarterback Cunningham, and he was like pretty much an expert of not taking big hits. And what he would do is, you notice that when he would get hit, he would leave his feet.
Yes.
So that they
Great
would
point.
he would not be taking full impact, or that he would, avoid taking full impact. So it depends on your style of play, and you also have to be lucky not to get certain injuries. But I think, as you can see, they're larger, stronger quarterbacks that are taking more hits, even though there are more rules to protect them. They're still taking hits.
They are. All right. Well, we got another injury report in the books. Certainly, it seems every week players are dropping like flies. And notably, you're talking marquee players. We're talking quarterbacks. We're talking running backs. But always great insight. And again, everyone, drstoller.com, American Orthopedic and Sports Medicine. You've got tutorials, you got videos, you got patient education. They give you all the rundown, the information, and it's always good to break down these injuries with you, Doc. We'll talk next Thursday.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Rich.
All right, you got it. Take care of yourself. You got it, Dr. Steven Stoller.